All right, so I did the 1 minute version. So here we go. Transformers, Beast Wars. Your opening sequence more or less shows, here's the Maximals. That's your hero characters. Here's the villain. Here's the MacGuffin. I like how very early they're like, no, here's the robot plot of the movie. You then get to meet all three of your humans. I like that there's only three. Did a good job with this. So you have Noah, his brother, and then you end up having the woman who is she's an intern at a museum. I like that. So when they introduce Noah's character, he's working on electronics. So they actually do this bizarre thing you don't see a lot of in movies nowadays. They actually show the character doing something. It's not someone telling them, "Oh, this person's awesome." No, they actually show them doing something. So with Noah and his brother has sickle cell. They're behind on bills. I like how they establish Noah as a good guy, trying to do the best, trying to do what he can. Does make some less than perfect mistakes. Ends up, of course, getting into winds being Mirage. Again, also you've seen the trailer. Those sequences I actually really enjoyed because that moment where like, oh yeah, I'm inside a car. Oh, this car is alive. This car is driving itself. This car is now a giant robot talking to me. You should be like, what is going on? So of course there's one side. The other side, of course, is the MacGuffin. Now, if you've seen the trailers, you notice that the MacGuffin gets activated because it's the MacGuffin. It's what it does. Which then leads to, your first of several battles with the Terracons and the Autobots. And I like how they actually went, oh, well, this is going on. Okay. But we don't know where this is. Ah, but a character knows where this is because they've pre-established some of these things earlier on. I'm like, okay. It's very much oh man, we gotta do this. Oh, I know how to do that. Okay, let's do this. Oh, I know how to do that. As you make your way through. And of course, we also have to throw in here is the much older Autobots to help them do something. Older, crotchety. Okay. Now, if you were concerned that the Maximals would be used like the Dinobots, no. They're used in several scenes. They're used in quite a few battles, and there's certain things that they do that you can see how this lines up with character progression. Again, a rare thing to see in movies nowadays. This one takes place in the 90s. So you now have an Optimus Prime that is younger than what we see in the first Transformers film. And you can see character progression from there to there, which I was like, this is really good. Now, when Optimus Primal first starts talking to him, he's like, well, I am from your future and also your past. As they describe more of the MacGuffin. And of course, giant battle sequence towards the end. Skybeam. Again, you have, since they're all, robots that transform into things. Again, you have all the major tropes. You've got Skybeam, which you see several times in the trailers, not explaining anything. Their heroes and villains have similar power sets. And of course, there's also the nameless army. I like that they kept it to a small group of humans because they actually get development, which was nice. I liked how you had a smaller group of Transformers to keep track of too. Makes it a lot easier. We don't need like 7 or 8 heroes fighting 6 villains. It's like no. Just keep the number kind of small. Make everyone appear different enough that it's easy to figure out. I'm like, oh, okay, that's that character. This is this character. When it's in a battle, you can easily be like, okay, that one's pink. That one's kind of a goldish color. Okay, that one's shown as using this weapon. Okay, they're defined. Was interesting seeing Unicron. And they do throw in enough other things to be like, oh, well, this happened, but this isn't done yet. And I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. I enjoyed it. It is 90s. So 90s music. and seemed to be a bit more profanity this one than I recall in the other ones. With them playing lots of, like 90s music, there's, I'll just say the S word thrown out several times in the movie. A lot very early on. I'm like, it seems like it's an awful lot in this movie. I don't recall it being that much in the other movies. But, they picked a certain time frame where it was used a lot more in the vernacular. So, I will say definitely stick to the ending. Because they do some resolutions to other storylines that work out very well. I did like even though the kid's playing on, I think it's a Game Boy when they show it, they do use Sonic terminology. If you listen closely when they're all talking to each other, you kind of go, I like what they did there. I like that. Small, subtle, worked well. I would say, most of the Transformers films have gotten to the point where they were really hard to get through. Bumblebee was good because it was a smaller group, easier to focus on. You did have someone go, but dude, I'm a scientist. I science things. I'm a scientist, bro. Science. Science, science, science. I'm going to drink a beer. I'm going to make sure that, I face the label to the camera. Why? Because I'm a scientist. Scientist. No one's walking around with, the Romeo and Juliet legal ramification card in their wallet. And you keep your cast on the smaller side. And they did a good job. So that's it for the main review. I'll throw in a couple of spoilers that I thought were interesting. So we'll go with 5, 3, 2, 1. Here come some of the spoilers. They do another bit where I'm like, I like that they did it. I know why they did it. I know the callback. But why didn't they do it in any other film? So Mirage gets severely damaged. Mirage then becomes an Iron Man suit for Noah. Now that's a callback to very early on in the cartoon when occasionally, I forgot like the boy's name. It's probably something like Skip or something because it was the 80s. And occasionally, if he needed to do things, they would put him in a super suit. So he could like fly in space or be something, not worry about being killed. And I was like, out of all the other times they did this, why didn't Bumblebee be like, oh no, this is going on. I'm severely damaged. Let me become a Pio suit for someone else. Or have a smaller robot become a Pio suit for someone else. It's right there with, I think it was the second one where the Transformer was a woman too. And it was like, wait. Sam was... That girl was actually a Decepticon who transformed into a human to manipulate Sam. What? Do this again. If you can become a robot that looks like a human, do that again. And of course, when Noah finally gets a job, he's asked if he wants to join G.I. Joe, and I was like, ooh. If it's just one of those things like, hey, it's Hasbro, I'm fine with that. If it ends up leading to maybe doing a crossover, they try to do a shared universe, okay. If they take the previous established films, then both The Rock and John Cena are in a shared universe as members of the military. Okay. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was good. Definitely, I like how we've gone away from lots of the Bayisms to actually just going, okay, what if we make a film that's got a bit more character focus to it and just happens to have giant robots that transform into things and punch and shoot stuff? I like the message of unity. It's like until all are one. I'm like, that's really good. Especially when it plays out in the very end sequences. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I dig this. I am fine with this. This works well. Nothing seems to go for too long. When you feel like there actually are stakes as things are going on. If someone gets injured, someone gets hurt, you actually feel like, oh, this could impact things later on. Even though it's a film that takes place in the middle of other films. So Definitely something that's worth watching in the theaters.